my name is Adriana and today I will be doing my reading wrap-up for the month of January. As per usual, I will start with my stats. I read 7 books, 3 of which were ebooks, 4 of which were audiobooks. I read a total page length of 1,161 pages, 37 hours in total of audiobooks, and the average length of my eyeball reads was 387 pages. And then my average rating was 3.8. I did not rate a few of the books, and I will talk about that in the book-by-book breakdown. 6 of the books I read this month were from the library, and 1 was a NetGalley ARC from the publisher. So we did really good about not buying any books, but not so good at reading my physical TBR. And then finally, the genre breakdown: 2 mystery thrillers, 2 sci-fi, 1 fantasy, and 2 nonfiction. So before I jump into the book-by-book breakdown, please consider liking and commenting on this video and subscribing to my channel if you like bookish things. The first book I read in 2023 I actually do now have a physical copy of, and that is Cradle of Ice by James Rollins. This is the book that I had an ARC of from the publisher Tor, so thank you so much to Tor for that. But yeah, now I have my physical cover. I also have a full vlog on this book if you want to get some real nitty-gritty, in-depth thoughts, but in short, this is the sequel to The Starless Crown. This is the second book in the Moonfall saga, and I enjoyed it. So the first book in the Moonfall saga, we follow kind of a ragtag group of questing individuals after a young student receives a prophecy that the moon is going to fall into the earth and destroy it. So now what used to be one big group has split up into 2 smaller groups and are working towards trying to find a solution. So that's basically the kind of gist of this book. It's 2 different quests happening on either side of the planet, and they are doing some major exploration as well as getting into some hijinks and some political intrigue. So very, very good. I would definitely, I mean, not that it's an issue anymore, but my reading experience was definitely hindered by the fact that I did not have the physical book. I was reading an e-ARC on my e-reader, which normally is fine. But a big part of this series so far is illustrations. So if you can see in the front of this book here, and this book has like Bible pages. Like, this is crazy how thin these pages are. We have like some illustrations of the planet itself. It is a planet that has stopped rotating on its own axis. So there is only a slim portion of the planet that is livable. One side, the side that doesn't see the sun, is too cold, and the other side gets blasted by the sun and is too hot. So beautiful illustration of what the entire world looks like. We have a nice little map here. This is the same map that was in the first book. But in the next page, we have some expanded maps. So this expanded map goes off to either side of that original map that I first showed you from the first book, because our teams are going off the map from the first book. So it did make it a little bit more difficult for me to kind of visualize where these groups were in relation to the rest of the world because I did not have the maps. Another thing that was not necessarily an issue, but just kind of a bummer, is they have these beautiful illustrations of some of the creatures in the world. So yeah, they have these beautiful kind of sketch illustrations like what you would see in like from a biologist going on like an exploratory trip. So I did not have these either. So I did enjoy the story. I think there is a bit of a sophomore slump with this one, considering it is only the second in the series. It did kind of feel more just build up to what's going on in the next book, but we did get a lot of questions answered from the first book, so I do appreciate that. I would recommend, if you are interested in reading Cradle of Ice and you read The Starless Crown like right when it first came out, might be worth, checking out a summary, maybe a full reread. There is a lot that happens in the first book that you were just expected to remember. There's a ton of characters that I just could not remember until about halfway through this book. So this might be worth a reread, or trying to find a summary somewhere, or just kind of figuring out what's going on. So the next book I read, I actually listened to, and that was The End of Everything, Astrophysically Speaking by Dr. Katie Mack. It was a good mind expansion exercise for me because astrophysics is not a realm of science I'm particularly comfortable with, and this did break my brain in a lot of parts of the book. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. How the universe expands is very confusing to me as an individual. So it was kind of nice to listen to something a little bit different outside of my science comfort zone, but it was a lot. But it is very well written, and you can tell that the author has a lot of passion for her field of study, and it's just really cool to see, women in STEM being educators, being, published in kind of popular science stuff. It's been a field that has been really dominated by men in the past couple decades. So I'm always down to support a female scientist educating on something that she's passionate about. The next book I listened to was Finlay Donovan is Killing It. This was the January pick for the Shelf This Book Club, hosted by Is Bailey Reading, and this was a fun little romp. It's a good time. It's a ridiculous mystery story that follows this struggling writer, single mother who gets mistaken for an assassin. And so already off just the premise alone, ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous and insane, and it just gets more ridiculous and more insane, and I'ma probably keep reading with the series. It's a good time, but just a little ridiculous. The next book I listened to was Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. That kind of gives you the tagline, kind of gives it away what this book is about, but it is a nonfiction book about all the ways in which data collection, making men the default, has really hurt women and society as a whole for many generations. The fact that urban planning and seatbelts and healthcare and so many things are designed specifically around a cis-het white man has really hindered societal development in a lot of ways. So this book isn't only just bashing on the fact that this world is harder to live in as a woman, but really how this world is harder to live in as just a person because of the way it's been designed specifically for one specific kind of person. Healthcare costs are higher across the board because the healthcare industry only services one kind of person. Ecological damage and environmental concerns could be helped by planning cities around the schedules of everybody and the needs of everybody versus the needs of one specific type of person. So I really enjoyed this book. I think the author did a really good job of delving into lots of different types of topics and exposing this gender bias gap. Yeah, so I would say if you are interested in this topic, I would think this is a really good place to start. The author cites all of her sources, so if you want to delve in more into the research, you can dig in from there. It is a little depressing, but at the same time, it was really enlightening and really affirming in a lot of the struggles that you feel as a woman living in a patriarchal society, but can't always verbalize in a way that makes sense to someone who is not a woman living in a patriarchal society. So 10 out of 10, would recommend. Really enjoyed this book. The next book I read was Recursion by Blake Crouch. I read this as a part of a vlog where I read my friends' faves. So this was a pick from Kayla Ray Reads, and I loved it. So like I said, this was a part of a vlog, so if you want more in-depth thoughts into the book, you can go check it out at that vlog. But in short, little summary, a technology is invented that allows your consciousness to be placed into your previous body. So it's you could put your consciousness into your body from 10 years ago. and basically relive those 10 years with your current memories, and how that really messes with people and society and everything else going on. And of course, being a Blake Crouch, it does have a thriller kind of aspect to it and lots of sci-fi weirdness going on. So I loved it. I am a Blake Crouch stan. I am obsessed with all of the books I've read from him, and I was so happy to jump back in his backlist a little bit and pick this one up. So the next book I read was also a part of that vlog. So again, if you want more in-depth thoughts, check out that vlog. I will have it linked down in the description below. But this was a pick from Martine, from Just Martine, and it was To Be Taught If Fortunate, a novella from Becky Chambers. I picked this one off of Martine's list just because Becky Chambers is an author I've been wanting to try. A novella is a good way to kind of sneak in there. This little novella follows the travels of a extrasolar exploration team that is leaving from Earth. So Earth is kind of in this utopia state where they have crowdfunded basically a space exploration team that goes to all of these planets outside of our solar system to learn as much as they can without damaging the planet itself. You know, they pick up after themselves, leave no trace, all those good things you're supposed to do. And obviously, it's not just, you know, a full story of everything going well. They eventually stop receiving communications from Earth, and so it's kind of following them as they decide what to do next, how they're going to handle that situation. It gets into a bit of philosophical discussion on exploration and what it means to explore and why humans are predisposed to exploration. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. It did make me want to check out more of Becky Chambers' work. So I will probably be doing that at some point, but I was very happy to have this kind of entrance into the shallow end of this prolific sci-fi author. And the last book I read for January was again part of that vlog. So same spiel as before, the vlog's down below and also up here, maybe? This final book was a pick from Stasia at the Reader's Sea, and it was The Golden Couple, a kind of, I guess, more straightforward kind of mystery thriller, I guess more what you would think of as a mystery thriller book. It follows this couple that goes to see this unconventional consulting therapist. She has lost her therapy license due to some sketchy shit in the past, and now she is offering her services that she can cure any issue you have in 10 sessions. So this couple goes in to see her because the wife had cheated and wanted help getting through this issue with her husband and getting to a better place for their family. And there's just a lot of weird sketchiness going on. Like I said, the therapist has some sketchy shit in her past. This couple seems perfect on the front, the golden couple, you know, both tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed, beautiful. They seem perfect. When you see them, they seem perfect on Instagram, but you can tell right off the bat that there is something weird going on behind the scenes. And as the book goes on, we delve more into that, figure out what's going on in the therapist's past, what's going on in the couple's past, all the secrets that are contained in this intricate web of weird. And I enjoyed it. I wasn't a huge fan of the ending, so I think I ended up just giving it like a straight 3 stars because I was really intrigued the whole time, but the ending just wasn't that satisfying to me. And I think that's usually my issue with like these mystery thriller books, is that you get so caught up in like this crazy intricate web of how everyone's connected, and you expect the end to be maybe not like bombastic, but just really like as crazy and weird as everything else has been up to this point. And it really wasn't that. Like, it was like pretty straightforward and kind of simple, which I think for some people would probably be really satisfying. But for me, I was really expecting something a lot more and a lot more weird than what we got. It was good, and I had a good time. Might try some more kind of mystery thriller in the future, but for now, I'll be sticking with my sci-fi fantasy bullshit. So those are the 7 books I read in January. Please let me know if you have read any of these or have any questions on any of them. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.